Hey guys, welcome back to the layout once again. Today we're going to start a little mini series, and I plan to do this on multiple locations around the layout. But the focus today is going to be Crawford, Nebraska, which is a town on the upper level of our layout. So I first want to take a look at kind of the prototype track plan and what we'll be changing, and then we'll just go ahead, jump right in. What we're going to do today, hopefully, is install the helper pocket, an interchange track, and a little spur track, and then I also want to finish the siding, which for our purposes is going to be called main track 2, but in reality it's a siding, so we'll get that flex track all in where you see that cork roadbed. So I already have a little bit of work done here, but still really early in the process of building this area, and there's a lot to do. So today's really just an introduction, but we'll have plenty to show as we move along and start to make this scene come to life. Alright, so I've more or less laid out the track work through at least the section that we're working on. So if you look way down there, I started to put in some flex track, which I'm going to talk about in a second because we're using a different brand for this section. You'll see then that it goes into 2 turnouts. So right here is where we're going to have the helper pocket. That first turnout then splits into 2 tracks. In the real Crawford, over in this section, we have actually 5 tracks on the south side of the main line. So in other words, on this side. But since we don't have that space, I'm going to bring that down to 2 tracks. The inside one, the closest one to the main line that you see laying right there next to that turnout, that will be our helper pocket. And in real life, the closest track to the main line actually is a stub end track and doesn't follow through and connect with the main line like you see down here. So I have kind of modified that. We are going to have another turnout down here, and instead of track 2 connecting down here, which is usually what happens, or that's what happens in real life, we're going to have that closest track run through just to simplify things, because the second track out here will be used to interchange cars. So the one closest to the edge here, you can see, will come off of that turnout way down there, and then that'll come right next to the helper pocket, and then that track is actually going to curve off right there where you see the cork meet the edge here, because in real life there are 3 interchange tracks that belong to NRI, where there's a lot of interchange between BNSF and that railroad. So I don't have room to model all 3 of those, and there's also actually a 4th track that's kind of stub end. So I'm just going to model one of those, and we're going to pretend like this is just going to go off into the distance. So we'll kind of cut that on the edge of the layout. But it'll also serve a purpose though, because we can park cars there for interchange, and they'll sit next to the helper engines, and if a train rolls through here, we can do a little interchange operation. So the other thing I want to point out is that I'm dealing with micro engineering flex track right here. These actually already have weathered rails, which is kind of nice. They look a little different than the Atlas, but the one thing that is most notable is that they are not, it's not flex track like Atlas or Walthers. You'll see when I lay this on side, it doesn't flex at all, in fact. So what you have to do is actually, what I've been doing is setting track up here, and if it's crooked at all, I put it on the straight edge like you see here, and then I just run my fingers down the ties, because the ties, they can move around quite a bit, but you kind of have to force them. So the more that you kind of nudge the ties around, then the rails tend to settle in place on this flat surface. So that's how I get the track looking pretty straight, and then I do some adjustments after I put it down. And then I also forgot to mention in that last clip, next to the main line, we're also going to have on the other side of the mains a spur that kind of heads off, splits off right in front of the engine facility, or sorry, the helper facilities, the crew facilities down here, and it just runs down a little bit. And in the prototype, there's a large grain elevator here, or not really large, but you know, decent sized. So since we don't have the space to model it there, I still want to have that track up here at least to park cars, because that'll be nice operationally. That's just another place to spot cars and tag onto trains and whatnot. So we'll probably just do a backdrop structure sort of thing, do a backdrop photo, or at least model just a really small portion of it right out front. So that's another track that we're going to be adding in just a second.